Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Reimagine Jobs Spotlight on Recreation, Tourism, and Hospitality. I'm your moderator, Bonnie McGill. I'm a Science Communication Fellow in the Anthropocene Studies section at the Carnegie Museum of Natural History in Pittsburgh, which is where I'm calling in from today. And I grew up in Home, PA in Indiana County. We're excited to be joined tonight by several esteemed panelists who are working on recreation, tourism, and hospitality initiatives in our region. Tonight's program is part of the Reimagine Jobs Showcase, which is a website, www.reimaginejobs.org, that was launched in September of 2020. The goal of this website is to highlight sustainable economic development initiatives and job opportunities in Southwest Pennsylvania. The website features local businesses and organizations in 9 sectors of sustainable economic development. Tonight's program on recreation, tourism, and hospitality is the 6th in a series of programs that we're launching, diving deeper into each of those 9 sectors. We encourage you to take a look at the website and explore the exhibitors and opportunities listed. Tonight's program will feature presentations by Dustin Drew of the PA Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, DCNR, Brian Perry of the Gap Trail Conservancy, Jeffrey Morris of Roxby Development, and Stefan Bontrager of River Life. These presentations will highlight current initiatives and opportunities in recreation, tourism, and hospitality. We will then have an opportunity for general questions and answers. We ask that you put your questions for all the panelists into the chat. If you have more specific questions for a single panelist, we will have breakout rooms after the Q&A where you will be able to delve deeper into the work of each panelist. You'll be able to choose the breakout that most interests you, and in that breakout, you'll be able to network and have more specific, informal conversations about that topic. Thanks again for joining us tonight. First up, we have Dustin Drew. Dustin Drew is the park manager at Moraine and McConnell's Mill State Parks, and he has been in that role since 2013. He has worked for the Pennsylvania State Parks within the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for around 20 years at several parks on both the eastern and western sides of the state. He's originally from the town of Hastings in Cambria County and attended the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown, where he received a degree in biology. Welcome, Dustin. Take it away.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be part of this and to speak tonight. Certainly, if you haven't been to Moraine or McConnell's Mill before, I strongly encourage you to go. I'm certainly a little biased towards that, but I do think they're wonderful places. Certainly hold myself lucky to be able to work there and take care of them. I wasn't going to go into great detail tonight about every feature of the parks. I think our website does a great job of that. And again, I'd really encourage you to get out and see them for yourselves. But one of the things that drew me to Moraine and McConnell's Mill was the diverse recreation that's offered there. So I think between the 2 parks, there's just about every type of recreational opportunity available that Pennsylvania State Parks normally offers, from trails and the lake and boating and fishing and all kinds of things at Moraine, and McConnell's Mill with some whitewater boating opportunities and rock climbing and some really great, somewhat rugged hiking trails through the Slippery Rock Creek Gorge. There's just a lot there to explore. And again, it's our job to conserve that and keep it not only in good order for our visitors, but for the ecological side of things and for, just to preserve that nature for the environment. So what I wanted to focus on a little bit more tonight was some of the sustainable work that DCNR is doing, both at the state level and also drilling down to Moraine and McConnell's Mill. So I'm going to highlight some of those efforts. I think it relates well to this group, and hopefully you find some interest in that. So I'll highlight some of that, throughout the state at the DCNR level, which is the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. There are several bureaus under that department, state parks and state forests probably being the two largest. There are currently 16 LEED certified buildings throughout the department. Again, most of those in state parks and state forests. In addition to those 16, there are 4 more under review. So I believe we're hoping to get up to at least 20 here in the near future. With our buildings, something else we've entered into is the Guaranteed Energy Savings Act, the GISA program, the parks in the western side of the state that obviously we're part of with Moraine and McConnell's Mill. We're sort of the trial run with that program. And I don't honestly have all the details to that. There is more information about that program, but basically it allowed us to invest in energy saving practices now, and the savings you get from those helps to pay for that work over a certain period of time. So I know at Moraine and McConnell Mill level, we were able to get LED bulbs almost everywhere, insulation, or additional insulation. We did things like sealing up building envelopes, tankless water heaters, a lot of, nice sound energy saving practices implemented at one time. And it's certainly showing and helping us on our electric bills and in some other areas. We've also ventured into some solar arrays in DCNR, and we've done that for more than a decade, mostly on the smaller scale. But recently, I would say in the last 4 to 5 years, we've delved into some larger scale solar, and Moraine was actually lucky enough to receive one of those larger scale solar arrays back in 2019. We had one implemented that is designed for around 270, I believe it's about 270 kilowatts. It is connected to our wastewater treatment plant and was put in place to help offset some of the energy costs with running that plant and treating our wastewater. So we were hoping for net zero. It's been about 60% offset so far. We'll see how it goes here. It's only been online for a few years. We are also hoping and planning on receiving another one on our North Shore near our bike rental and our new water treatment plant to help offset electric costs on the North Shore of Moraine. And that is expected within the next year or so. So we're looking forward to that. And expanding our solar array options. And we try and include some educational components with that as well. We also have some electric and electric hybrid vehicles. We have not been able to obtain those yet for our park complex, but statewide, they are becoming more common in our fleet. And with that, we've also been able to install some electric vehicle charging stations. And there is a network now built through state parks and forests across Pennsylvania. Moraine hosts one on the North Shore near our bike rental station, and McConnell's Mill has one at the Kildew picnic area. So we've been able to implement these throughout the state and offer some alternative areas for people to charge. And we've been sort of strategic in where we place those so that they're placed in areas where folks can come and park and recreate, for as long as they'd like, several hours if need be, while their vehicle charges. So we're excited about that. And I believe that network is still being built throughout state parks in PA. Riparian buffers have been a big issue, or not issue, but an item that the department has pushed, we'll say, the last couple of years. And these areas are usually along stream sides or some type of water body. And it's an area where you let vegetation grow and it's able to buffer and help reduce stormwater runoff and erosion and sedimentation. And I know they've also been pushing, having those buffers include fruit and nut-bearing trees and ideas like that, where you're getting additional benefits from having that area along the water body. So those are some of the statewide efforts that are being made. drilling down to the park level, to Moraine and McConnell's Mill. We've been doing things for the last several years like cement board siding on our buildings instead of wood siding. I mentioned the GISA program with energy efficiency. We're actually getting rid of buildings when we find we don't need them rather than hold on to them and try and invest in them and pay for the electric and water and sewer. Trails and shorelines, we've been trying to armor with rock and stabilize them to prevent erosion and sedimentation. And then we've also been diversifying our forest age and actually, cutting back some of the forest that has matured to allow some young growth to grow up. So those are some of the efforts, that I wanted to cover. There's a lot more, and obviously I can go on and on about the work that we've done and what Moraine and McConnell's Mill can offer. But I did want to touch on jobs, obviously. So, some of the things we offer or could offer at Moraine, we have, obviously a management team, myself and an assistant manager. We have rangers. Some of those are law enforcement and some of them are non-law enforcement and more based with visitor services. We do have educators that put on public programs, environmental education specialists. We have administrators. We have several offices that we run, and we need clerical and administrative staff to help us run those, obviously. And then maintenance staff. And, that's something we've been seeing and I know it's not just us, it's a much larger picture, is that the gap in the skilled trades and finding people that have that knowledge and capability. We've been searching for that as well. So we often have maintenance opportunities available. Some things to keep in mind with us is many of our entry-level positions are seasonal. So that's something you have to consider. One of the benefits is you're entering into a statewide organization that if you're willing to move around, it presents much more opportunities the wider area you're willing to move to. So you have additional opportunities once you're in the system to move around and either get that salary position or get to a location and a position that you're most interested in. I often say the advantage of a state system can be that it's a state system and allows you to have that statewide view. Beyond the state parks and the park level, I'll touch on some DCNR level opportunities as well. Another one of our large bureaus is the Bureau of Forestry. They take care of over 1 million acres of forestry land. So they have folks like service foresters that both arrange and manage timber sales on forestry land, but they'll also go out to private landowners and develop a management plan for their forests. We have the Bureau of Topologic and Geographic Survey that has geologists, and they study the geology throughout the state and work with wells and things like that. We have a Rec and Con department that works with local communities they issue a lot of grants and help make sure that recreation is important and being sustained and offered throughout the communities below the state level throughout the state. And then we also have a facility design and construction, which are engineers that help us design those buildings and all of our assets within state parks and forests, so that visitors can come and have a safe time, and that we can hopefully have those sustainable designs and move forward with promoting that throughout the state. So those are some of our opportunities. I didn't want to go too long. Certainly available for questions later, I think, if there are any. I appreciate the time.
Thank you so much, Drew. That was an exciting presentation. I know I have a lot of questions for you, but we're going to ask everyone to put your questions into the chat, and we'll get to those after all 4 presentations. So we're going to move on to our second speaker, Brian Perry of the Gap Trail Conservancy. Brian Perry is the executive director of the Great Allegheny Passage, or GAP Conservancy, a nonprofit entity formed to complete, promote, and protect the Great Allegheny Passage, a 150-mile non-motorized path between Pittsburgh and Cumberland, Maryland. The GAP receives over 1 million visits annually and was the first path named to the National Rail Trail Hall of Fame. He previously served as Assistant Director for Workforce and Strategy at Oakland Planning and Development Corporation, and for 18 years worked at the Pittsburgh Project, a neighborhood-based youth-serving organization. Brian has a Master of Urban and Regional Planning degree from the University of Pittsburgh and a BA from Wheaton, Illinois College. He serves on the Go Laurel Highlands Board of Directors and previously on the board of the Oakland Business Improvement District. He and his family live in Pittsburgh and spend a lot of weekends pedaling, paddling, and hiking. Welcome, Brian. Take it away.
Thanks, Bonnie. It's great to be here. I'm going to try to get a slide deck up to share with folks. So the Great Allegheny Passage is the signature project of the GAP Conservancy, and I serve on the small staff team there. I've got a short slide deck to tell you a little bit more about the Great Allegheny Passage, and then I'd like to focus on both entrepreneurial opportunities that are available from end to end, and a little bit on some trends in the job market for those of you who are seeking job opportunities. This beautiful trail runs 150 miles from Point State Park in the picture here, all the way to Cumberland, Maryland. And it's primarily designed for bikers and hikers, but also used by bird watchers and anglers, walkers, strollers, dog walkers, and many others. I would say that 2/3 of our traffic probably comes from local folks, and another third comes from tourists who come from all 50 states and 35 countries annually to travel distances on the path. You should see a new slide, yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the trail was completed in 2013, and the value add really is in the trail towns and on money that tourists are spending in those towns. Between festivals in local towns and businesses that have put up their shingles to attract tourists, like the fella in this picture who's traveling long distances, the annual spend is in excess of about $40 million in dollars spent in local communities, in restaurants and lodging and shuttle services, cafes, breweries, distilleries, retail, and bike shops, outfitters, tour guides, and those kinds of things. The trail is known for its access to falling water, to the Pennsylvania Whiskey Trail, the National Road, a lot of beautiful French and Indian war sites, the Ohio State Park and Cedar Creek Park in Westmoreland County, and beautiful set of 14 major bridges and 4 tunnels leading all the way to Cumberland, where travelers can pick up the C&O Canal Towpath, which is a national historical park. And between the Great Allegheny Passage and the C&O, you can ride or travel all the way to Washington, D.C. You can see the Great Allegheny Passage in red with most of its trail towns listed. The C&O Canal Towpath is in blue with similar canal towns that aren't probably quite as well developed for tourism, but they're improving in every way. We have some urban sections in Pittsburgh, including this section that crosses the repurposed Hot Metal Bridge. This 19-mile section between Pittsburgh and McKeesport is paved, and it attracts bike commuters and rollerbladers, runners, and folks looking for a safe way to get around parts of the urban stretch here in Allegheny County. We've got a modest section that skirts a suburban mall through Pittsburgh Steel Valley. This section was the last to be constructed because it just has a really challenging built environment that was industrial for more than 100 years, with brownfields and road crossings and several sets of train tracks and sidings, those kinds of things. Most of the Gap, though, is rural, right? In Fayette, Somerset, and Westmoreland counties, through small towns and deep woods, and through really sparsely populated places, including the Appalachian Mountains and beautiful little hollows. It's a great place to relax and rejuvenate, for sure. This is a shot from above Ohiopyle State Park. And Ohiopyle may have been the first town along the Great Allegheny Passage to really consider itself a full-on trail town, largely because of the whitewater community that has developed there since the 60s. In 2020, the Gap received about 1.5 million visits. That's well above our 6-year trend line. And overnight tourists, the ones who are spending money and helping business owners to create jobs, probably represent about 10% of that total. And they spend hundreds of dollars on through trips on things I mentioned earlier: gas, clothing, groceries, campgrounds, dining, bike rental, coffee, beer, museum admission, lodging, return transportation, those kinds of things. What we've done over the years is we developed a guidebook called Capturing Trail-Based Tourism that chambers of commerce and other municipal leaders, Main Street managers, and business owners have used to think about how they route the Gap through their town, how they develop signage and maps, amenities, what kinds of businesses they might wish to highlight to draw tourists into town to spend these dollars. This guide, which was published in 2005, it's been adapted and tweaked by those towns. Even today, the Pennsylvania Downtown Center has a nature-based placemaking program that they have developed and tweaked that helps business owners and municipal leaders figure out the right way to draw tourists into town. We've developed the brochures there on the right that have town maps and business listings in there to really make it easy for folks to get off the Gap and into town to spend money. So, big picture, what does this mean for the economy and for jobs and for business? Nationally, the Outdoor Industry Association estimates that the outdoor economy is at least a $400 billion industry. That includes $20 billion on gear from trail sports like rail trails and biking. That's more than Americans spend on home entertainment systems in a year. That $400 billion includes almost $100 billion on cycling and skateboarding. That's more than Americans spend on video games. And they estimate that about 145 million people participate in some kind of outdoor rec annually. That's more than who attend all the 4 major professional sports in the US and Canada. Our own research, which dates back to 2008 and 9, indicate that about $40 million is spent by tourists along the Gap, and that includes about $7.5 million in wages generated. Subsequent analysis that we've done in 2012 and 2015 indicate that overnight riders are spending about $124 per person per day versus day users who are spending about $18 per day. But at 1 million visits a year, and this last year about 1.5 million, that's a lot of money to be made. If you're really interested in trail tourism, Headwaters Economics has a database of peer-reviewed analyses for public spaces, including trails of all kinds: water trails, bike trails, hiking trails, and so on. We're just at the tail end of a study with Fourth Economy, which is a Pittsburgh-based consulting firm, to update our own economic impact numbers that we can share with Reimagine Jobs eventually. Here are some examples about the trail economy, right? In Rockwood, small town in rural Pennsylvania, an entrepreneur rehabbed an old opera house, brings in live theater, put in a restaurant, and opened up rooms for overnight travelers. And another fellow there opened up a B&B and a pop-up bike shop to serve cyclists, especially during busy Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday cycles. A corporate marketing professional from Atlanta bought this beautiful bed and breakfast in Myersdale, and she turns over rooms at about $150 a night. It's a lovely space, and there are dozens and dozens of bed and breakfasts along the way. They're not all evenly distributed, though, which makes business opportunities available in some towns that have yet to see travelers stop and stay there. Ohio Pile, which I mentioned before, which, for 35, 40 years was a whitewater based tourism economy, now sees more bike travelers than paddlers in town. So biking has a longer season. It's bad weather friendly. Some would suggest that it's equally safe and also family friendly, like whitewater work is. So there are all kinds of restaurants and lodging properties in that very small borough. Entrepreneurs in West Newton have rehabbed those 3 white older homes and then built that green house to look dated. And they're all for bed and breakfast travel. And they're right on the Great Allegheny Passage. And the increase in overnight guests in that town has spurred on a pizzeria and a sub shop and a craft brewery. There's a new distillery that's opened up. A lot of these businesses have received loans from the Progress Fund, which specializes in helping entrepreneurs get trail businesses off the ground. One of the fun things we tried was collaborating with ice cream shops in each town. This one's the Queen City Creamery in Cumberland, Maryland. Each town had a signature ice cream flavor like Cumberland Cherry or Frostburg Fudge, essentially. And then we marketed an ice cream trail ride where bicyclists would get passports stamped when they bought ice cream in that town. And the idea was really good, although it became a little harder to execute when several towns had more than one ice cream place and there was competition for those passports. Here's Confluence. It's a town of 736 people. It's at the confluence of the Castleman Youghiogheny and the Laurel Hill Creek. It's in a beautiful valley. 20 years ago, they had 1 restaurant and 1 bed and breakfast. And today they've got 4 restaurants and over 20 places to stay overnight. Guest houses, bed and breakfasts, Airbnbs, all dedicated to Great Allegheny Passage travel. Here's some current trends for those of you interested in starting your own business or looking for work. The newest successful businesses are finding success beyond lodging and dining. It's booze, right? West Newton and Cumberland both have new distilleries and breweries. These are really popular places for cyclists once they know they can stay overnight in a town. This kind of business is beginning to attract additional folks for 3 seasons or maybe 4. Lodging remains the segment in which tourists spend the most money on the Gap. Although I would say today many tourists are looking for opportunities that sort of split the difference between a high-end bed and breakfast and a low-end campground, like a guest house or a bunk room. And there remain opportunities for folks with maybe not enough capital to buy a bed and breakfast or start a bed and breakfast, but someone who's interested in starting a guest house or a more modest overnight space for families or groups with a roof over cyclists' head and maybe showers in an outbuilding. There's also good money in the business of curating self-guided tours, in which lodging and bike rental and shuttle services and return transportation are all included for a flat fee. Customer service is really critical there, but tourists from all around the world are willing to spend $600, $700, $800 per person to have you curate their trip, set up all their reservations, set up their luggage shuttle between trail towns, set up their return transportation back to their starting spot. The folks running those kinds of services now are doing very good business and are really contributing well to the life of the trail. I would say this, that our current economic impact study is showing that the healthiest businesses and where the most jobs are available are in businesses that offer multiple services, right? So like lodging and shuttles, or bike rental and dining. You sort of protect yourself against slowdowns in any one area if you can offer multiple kinds of service. Angela Bunnell here started Sunshine Luggage Shuttle. This is a growing area, and I think there's room for entrepreneurs to get into this sort of spot. A lot of cyclists don't wish to carry all their own bags and gear from town to town, and they're more than willing to pay Angela or others to carry it for them. She started her business in 2016. She had 8 customers that whole year. In 2017, she had 177, and in 2018, she had 350 jobs throughout the year. She's got 4 small kids, and they can ride along with her, and it's been a great 3-season job for Angela and her family. If you have an interest in hauling people, it requires a special state license, but I'll tell you right now, that's a fantastic opportunity for travelers who want to get back to their starting spot with their bikes and their co-travelers. In addition to shuttle services, for folks interested in jobs along the corridor, established businesses who were hit hard during COVID are hiring now in food service and bike repair and hospitality and retail. And I would also say that entrepreneurs or folks looking for employment will find opportunities not only along the Gap, but along the Montour Trail in southern Allegheny County, the Three Rivers Heritage Trail in various spots in Pittsburgh, the Westmoreland Heritage Trail, and the Sheepskin Trail, which runs from Connellsville down toward Uniontown. All of these areas, some of which connect to the Gap and others don't, are ready to explode with bike tourism, and there will be job opportunities and entrepreneurial opportunities on those trails. Some last current trends. Our current studies have shown that half of the bike shop owners along the Gap say they'll be ready to sell in the next 5 years, and about a third of restaurant owners say the same. So if you're an entrepreneur with access to some capital, you might find the right deal to buy an existing bike shop or an existing restaurant, lock, stock, and barrel in one of our trail towns. And then this is really key. Location is pretty important, and there are some spaces and towns along the Gap which have yet to really reap the benefit of tourism. One of them is Garrett, Pennsylvania, out in Somerset County. It's where the 9/11 National Memorial route will peel off from the Great Allegheny Passage and head up to Flight 93. It's a great time to buy a house and turn it into a bed and breakfast in that location, because it will become a node or hub for people traveling both trails. Rockwood, trail town on the Gap, has lost a restaurant recently with folks retiring, and that's an opportunity for someone with those gifts. McKeesport could use an entrepreneur in dining or lodging or a bike shop. It's a great turnaround from Pittsburgh, 20 miles out and back. And McKeesport is yet to really hit the mark as a trail town for services. Little Boston in Elizabeth Township is short on some services, although it's a great distance from Pittsburgh. And of course, Duquesne, through which the trail runs, could use a great restaurant or coffee shop or cafe there if you're entrepreneurially minded. I mentioned the Progress Fund offers small business loans to launch businesses like this. Regionally, Amy Camp and Cycle Forward, her nonprofit, offers technical assistance to those seeking to put their best foot forward. So if you've got an idea for launching a business along the Gap, I've got a big picture view of where you might find either a lot of competition or no competition, or where you might find the right niche in the market between Pittsburgh and Cumberland. And I can connect you to Trail Town reps who might have connections and recommendations. So thank you for letting me go a little long, and I'll be available for questions later in the evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian, for that inside scoop on what's going on with the Gap and other trails. We're going to move on to our third speaker, Jeffrey Morris of Roxby Development. Jeffrey, as the driving force behind the Roxby development, Jeffrey assembles and leads teams for every exceptional project. As a fourth-generation developer, he is committed to the integrity of the company, from each team member to the design and construction of each project and viability for the greater community. Jeffrey manages Roxby's sustainability approach and chooses to reuse, recycle, and renovate to preserve natural resources and environments. He leads Roxby's operations, design and development, and systems design. He also serves as the company's regulatory liaison and project initiator. Welcome, Jeffrey. Take it over.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me. Even though I'm down here in West Virginia in Wheeling, Pittsburgh's actually our largest suburb. I lived and developed in Pittsburgh for about 10 years on and off of my life. And so there's such a close relationship. We're about an hour away, and it's one of my favorite places. So I'm Jeffrey Morris, and I am in the Scottish Rite Cathedral in the theater, which is on the top floor, unusual. And this is one of 6 of our projects within Wheeling, which is a very long-term approach to do a combination of things. Number one, to develop the tourism market. Number 2 is to train skilled labor. I have never done any new construction. It's not something that I like the way that it's done currently. It's not designed to last, and it is designed for the immediate return as opposed to long-term permanence and sort of viability, and the investment is not put into it in that way. This building was built in 1915 by a Masonic order, the Scottish Rite, finished in 1917. It was completed in 18 months. It's 125 feet high with only 5 stories and only about 20 rooms, although it has 82,000 square feet. Behind me is the theater part of the stage, and every part of this building was built to last for 600-700 years if you have the skilled labor to maintain it. We live in a freeze-thaw cycle, which causes, it wreaks havoc on buildings if they're not maintained. And in my opinion, the ultimate expression of sustainability is to maintain. These buildings, this is a solid masonry, solid steel reinforced masonry building. The floor underneath of me, even though I am sitting at 110 feet in the air, it is 18 inches of steel reinforced concrete. All of the walls are steel reinforced concrete. The boiler system is a low pressure steam system, which we have restored. That is permanence, and we have not had to slow our development because of material shortages, because we're not using materials. We're polishing what was built well 105 years ago. This is one. Behind us, which is south, we have some residential buildings that are also 100-ish years old, which we're restoring for Airbnb and tourism purposes. Immediately in front of me is a mountain, which a partner of ours, a nonprofit called Grow Ohio Valley, is developing a city park, which is called Edible Mountain, a perennial native forest of about 70 acres. And we have a house at the top that has a view of this beautiful architectural gem. To my right, we have, which would be east is the monastery, our first project. Again, a steel reinforced masonry building over 100 years old, which we are choosing to restore with skill. And to my left is the project that has me a little bit late today, which is the McClure Hotel, one of the most historic hotels in the country. 11 U.S. presidents have stayed there. It has become derelict, but it's right on the waterfront, and it's beautiful. And our approach is to train our workforce to be able to take care of and restore these beautiful buildings. We have developed hospitality schools and hired hospitality workers to improve the food scene with Grow Ohio Valley and their approach of farming organically and locally. Our concept is not to strike while the iron is hot. It is to strike the iron over and over and over again, repeatedly, very quickly, and to make it hot with friction. And that's something that we believe very, very deeply in. And we have a core motto that is a rising tide lifts all ships. And so we don't have a competitive nature. It's very much a supportive culture here, which is bearing real fruit. We are actively recruiting people with passion who want to learn how to do any one of a number of old world techniques in our buildings, in our shops, in our training spaces with these masters who are rare. They are becoming rarer and rarer, and we're trying to prevent that. On the first floor, underneath of me, we have two former stagehands who were professional stagehands in the union and everything. And it was their career. And COVID shut them down and they had to move home, which happened to be here, luckily. We came across them. They saw this theater and they said, I don't know what you do. I've never picked up a hammer in my life. I've been on a stage, but I want to be around that stage and I want to know how you restore it. And they have been doing old world terrazzo on the first floor from start to finish. Sarel Venter, who's our in-house master who trains on a lot of these things, he has been, immobile from knee replacement. So he has literally instructed people with no skill whatsoever to do this from start to finish. And I saw some of the work earlier, the polishing downstairs, and it's stunning. The fact that they have never done this before, and just with a sharing of stories and knowledge, they now understand how to do it, and they have done it, and that floor will be there for 100 years. That is my idea of sustainability, and the tourism aspect is all the more important to that because that brings regular dollars, and the Pittsburgh and the Columbus markets are our two biggest factors because we're right on 70. We're very close, and you can come and learn these things. You can be a part of this food scene. Better yet, when we close on the McClure, hopefully this week, we are going to be opening the 7 vacant storefronts to basically give away for free to people from locally and elsewhere who have good ideas and who want to try and to start something, because there's nothing worse than an empty storefront. And so if it's already empty and you can't rent it and you're trying to revive your downtown, give it away to creative people with passion and it will pay off. So anyone listening who is looking for maybe a change, wants to play real world SimCity, which we are doing today with an incredible group of about 35, 40 people, plus Grovey's 50 and everyone else around here. Come on down to Wheeling, West Virginia. You will not be mad about it. So thank you for having me. And come on down.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. That was fascinating and makes me want to question what I'm doing with my life. So we're gonna move on, but any questions folks have for Jeffrey, please go ahead and put into the chat, and we'll get to those after this next presentation, which is our fourth. Stefan Bontrager. He is the Vice President of External Affairs at River Life. He has been with the organization since 2009, helping lead River Life's work to create, activate, and celebrate Pittsburgh's riverfronts. He oversees all development and communications functions at River Life, including media and public relations, marketing, and individual fundraising. A native of Denver, Colorado, he now calls Pittsburgh his adopted hometown. Welcome, Stefan.
Thanks so much, Vonnie, and good evening, everyone. It's great to be here. I'm going to share my screen really quickly. All right, so again, I'm a Vice President for External Affairs at River Life, and we're a mission-based nonprofit that works across partnerships to create, activate, and celebrate Pittsburgh's riverfronts, connecting people to exceptional places and experiences. And what I'm going to be talking to you tonight about is the big picture vision that we are working towards, some projects that are in the pipeline, and obviously the impact that that's going to have on economic opportunities and job opportunities in the future. Our leading principle at River Life is that we believe the region's riverfronts belong to everyone, and that the benefits of these riverfronts as shared assets and improvements must be enjoyed by all Pittsburghers. And during the past 16 months, we've really seen a renewed appreciation for Pittsburgh's riverfront parks and open spaces. Our friends at DCNR estimated that open space usage increased across Pennsylvania by 60% during the pandemic. And anecdotally, we've heard from outdoor recreation retailers that there's been a real explosion in sales of bikes and kayaks and boats as people are discovering or rediscovering the riverfronts as they were seeking them out during the pandemic for wellness and just simply something to do. The situation wasn't always so rosy, however. As many of you know, the riverfronts for generations were largely working riverfronts with lots of industry. And when we were formed in 1999, it was during a time of severe economic distress for the city of Pittsburgh. Resources were limited to make a plan for the redevelopment of the riverfronts after the collapse of the steel industry. River Life was formed as a public-private partnership of community members, property owners, environmentalists, philanthropists who saw the pressing need to develop a plan to reclaim Pittsburgh's riverfronts for the people of the region and our visitors. And we held hundreds of community meetings back in those days. We worked with landscape architects and planners to create a vision for an interconnected riverfront park system centered around the downtown confluence. And that original vision called for a loop of accessible, reclaimed riverfront. And originally the boundaries, for those of you who are in Pittsburgh, you might know, the boundaries were between the West End Bridge over the Ohio River, the 16th Street Bridge over the Allegheny, and the Smithfield Street Bridge over the Mon. This geography featured riverfront land that's really sliced and diced a dozen different ways across public and private property owners. So one of the uphill challenges was to get everyone on the same page, get everyone to share the same vision for publicly accessible riverfronts. And over the past 20 years, we've seen some really remarkable transformations, like the addition of South Shore Riverfront Park on the south side at the site of the former J&L Steel mill, the Mon Wharf Landing going from a parking lot that floods to a trail and linear park that still floods but is flood tolerant and also serves a vital trail connection for our riverfront network. And you know, all of these improvements have been done through public-private partnerships with the city, the county, the Urban Redevelopment Authority, DCNR, lots of investment from foundations and the business communities, and of course, tireless advocacy from our nonprofit community, River Life, Friends of the Riverfront, Venture Outdoors, Bike Pittsburgh, the Great Allegheny Passage Conservancy, Western Pennsylvania Conservancy, Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy, and many, many more. And I'm sorry that I can't name them all, but a great team effort to make all of this possible. And as progress was made, the boundaries that River Life has been focused on were moved up the rivers, up the Allegheny to the 31st Street Bridge in the Strip District and the Hot Metal Bridge on the Mon at Southside Works. Over the past 20 years, River Life's led a $132 million investment in creating Pittsburgh's downtown riverfront experience. And that investment has helped catalyze nearly $4.2 billion in total riverfront and adjacent development in that area. The loop of riverfront experience that we're talking about now is roughly 15 miles between those three bridges and over 1,000 acres of public open space on the riverfront centered around the downtown Golden Triangle. And currently 85% of that loop is connected or features some form of publicly accessible open space. So now looking toward the future with our mission and vision and values as our backdrop, our work is really focused on three overarching goals: completing and enhancing that riverfront loop and expanding the loop to adjacent and specific geographies where we're invited to partner. During the past several months, River Life has returned to our roots of community engagement. We've been leading an extensive public process to gather detailed feedback on site conditions and priorities for improvements. And we have really taken a look at those 15 miles and called that process the Completing the Loop study process. It compelled us to look at 25 different river segments that are grouped into 9 districts. And for each of those districts, our team looked at 5 different categories: connectivity, place, ecology, maintenance, and experience. We ranked all of those areas. You can see some of the good and some of the bad here. Point State Park, of course, does very well on those scorecards for a sense of place and ecology, whereas an area like the West End Bridge and West Carson Street leading up to it ranked pretty low because of the lack of ecology, lack of pedestrian friendliness, and not really being much of a desirable destination. And as you can see overall with the red, yellow, and green areas, we have a lot of work to do to raise some of these riverfront gaps up to kind of the gold standard that we would like to see them at. We also heard during this public process that people really wanted loop amenities, not just creating the connections, but filling them in with the fun stuff that makes a riverfront destination vibrant. And part of that is catalytic programming as well: events, programming, outdoor recreation, all that good stuff. Time and time again, we also saw the need for a comprehensive care and maintenance strategy and a financial instrument to support care and maintenance that's being currently provided by our maintenance partners. So I think I'm already getting close to my time here, and I have quite a few more slides. So please just send me a chat if I'm going way over here. I'll try to go through quickly the rest here that we have. We took all of this feedback to create a bigger picture for creating world-class destinations. And we identified 3 priority areas, both as districts and as specific projects, and we're calling these river rooms. And a river room is an area of the river that has a relationship between both sides of the river, up and down. And it's a well-connected place that you can see from one side of the shore to the other. Feels very vibrant. Great examples that exist currently are Point State Park and the North Shore. So in completing the loop vision, we're proposing the creation of a Confluence River Room, Allegheny River Room, and Monongahela River Room. And these are working titles. And I could spend a lot of time talking about individual projects and the vision plan for each of these river rooms, but I'm going to jump ahead to 2 projects in particular in the Allegheny river room section, because I think that they're really good case studies that represent some of the larger objectives of the entire loop in creating a signature riverfront experience that's going to encourage tourism, create jobs across multiple sectors, and drive sustainable development. Here's a few of the Mon River Room projects, and then the Allegheny River Room. So zooming in on the left side of the screen to what we're calling City Landing Park. This is across from Washington's Landing. It's our proposal for City Landing Park that's on the site of the city tow pound lot at the base of the 31st Street Bridge in the Strip. It's one of the last major city-owned riverfront parcels, and it's ripe for change. For years, it's been talked about by the city as needing to be repositioned, and it's a priority of the city of Pittsburgh to do this. So RiverLife's assisting in the imagining of the future of the site. This is the beginning of that process. We're thinking about what the river system could use on this site, as well as some of the feedback that we've received from folks who are thinking about what the Strip District needs as a neighborhood and what the region needs and what this site can hold. So the vision is for a park with many different types of activities and amenities, accompanied by residential and commercial development that it could include affordable housing, cafes and kiosks, green spaces, play spaces, increased tree canopy, Western Pennsylvania native landscapes. And we think this would also be a great place to have a public mooring for a seasonal amenity like a swim barge and increase access for watercraft. Moving forward, we're going to be advocating for mixed use, mixed income, and of course, lots of investment in public open space and working with our partners to create connectivity through here. Another project down the river, down the Allegheny from that tow pound site is Allegheny Landing. This is one of the classic parks of Pittsburgh's riverfront renaissance that was actually established in 1984 as a sculpture park. Over the past couple of decades, a lot of deferred maintenance and wear and tear on this park have created pretty dire conditions for the park. But we really see it as an opportunity to be a new heart of Pittsburgh's downtown riverfront experience and help build out that Allegheny River Room experience. And so RiverLife has been working with the city of Pittsburgh on restoration and activation of Allegheny Landing with phased restoration of the lower trail, the dock repairs, and the upper plaza. This is a great destination for public art. And we really do see Allegheny Landing as the opportunity for creating a canvas for temporary works of public art, such as a lighting installation that could draw people to the riverfront during the winter months when they're not as active. And we really believe in the vibrancy of public art and programming to activate the riverfronts. This is a project that we did with City of Pittsburgh and Allegheny County a few years ago called Energy Flow. These were solar or wind-powered LED lights that were put on the Rachel Carson Bridge. Speaking of artwork, we have a vision for Art Walk on the Allegheny River. This would create a cultural destination between 2 miles of riverfront between Point State Park and 28th Street in the Strip District. This is a partnership between RiverLife and the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust. One of the signature sites and gateways to this is the Black Lives Matter mural site under the Fort Duquesne Bridge, where we have an artist residency with the artist Camo Nesbitt to be evolving that site and creating a space for Black-led artists and art making on the riverfront. He's very inspired by the Wynwood Walls project in Miami, in the design district that has really transformed a section of warehouses into an economic powerhouse and a tourism destination through the creation of street art and murals on the sides of those buildings. Really exciting stuff. Just upriver from there, we just saw the installation of a sculpture by Future Green Studios called Invisible Ecologies. And we really do believe in the economic power of public art. A number of you might remember when the duck, the rubber duck, which was a big public art installation by the artist Florentine Hoffman came to Pittsburgh a few years ago. And not only was it a fun, kind of weird thing to see, but it really did drive lots of tourism dollars, lots of restaurants, hotel rooms being filled, bike and parking traffic. We like to see that sort of vibrancy on the riverfront and how it leads back to economic gains for everyone. Another project that was created by River Life and Office of Public Art and Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership during the pandemic was Pittsburgh Creative Corps. This was a program that mobilized to provide temporary amenities to keep people informed of during the COVID-19 pandemic. It included some hand washing kiosks, trail signage. It was also providing economic opportunity and jobs for local artists and makers. And we have a roster of Pittsburgh Creative Corps artists. You'll see some of them working on murals on the shipping container that is part of the Pittsburgh Creative Corps studio as part of the Allegheny Overlook pop-up park downtown along Fort Duquesne Boulevard. Want to wrap up with just a brief highlight of some of the events and activities. River Life's big Party at the Pier fundraiser brings 800 to 900 people to the riverfront on August 28th. We also do a Welcome to the Riverfront event called Back to School, Back to the Rivers with our partner organization, Hello Neighbor, where we welcome new immigrant and refugee families to Pittsburgh and show them how to access Pittsburgh's riverfronts via a Gateway Clipper boat tour. And then finally, I want to wrap up by just a very high-level overview of some of the development that is coming down the pike. And I think lots of you know about the Hazelwood Green development that is happening, formerly known as Almano, 178 acres in the city of Pittsburgh, reconnecting the Hazelwood community back to its riverfront. You see lots of economic activity. I think the Post-Gazette just estimated over $1 billion of economic activity in the Strip District along the riverfront over the past 10 years, including this project from Oxford Development Company, the Stacks. We see a repositioning of Station Square, major investment in the redevelopment of that project as it reorients itself more to the riverfront. The Esplanade project in Chateau, and the new Rivers Casino Hotel, which just recently resumed construction on the North Shore, which is a $60 million project that is estimated to create 128 permanent hotel and casino jobs and 1,400 temporary construction jobs. All of these projects represent economic opportunity and jobs created, and also opportunities for developers to work with River Life and our design review committee to make sure that everyone, once again, is buying into this community vision for public riverfronts for everyone. Our design review committee is a volunteer committee of architects and designers who meet to give constructive feedback to developers in their design process, so that a riverfront developer or a riverfront project will connect to the trail system, will offer outdoor amenities like landscape amenities, a setback from the riverfront, and make sure that it's savings for the developer in the long run, and really feeding into the community vision and community access on the riverfronts. I know that is a lot of information. With completing the loop and the vision for those projects moving forward, I encourage you to go to our website, which is riverlifepgh.org/loop. Find out more about those projects and the big vision and what's been done. Thanks again for the opportunity to talk tonight.
Stefan, thank you so much. That was a lot of really great information. And I don't think it was necessarily that you went over. I think we all just had a lot to say. If you will bear with me, I have lost power here in Greenfield in Pittsburgh because we had some thunderstorms. So I'm operating all of this just from my phone. But what I understand we're going to do is move on to Q&A. which we'll do for about 10 minutes until 8:15, and then we'll do breakouts for 10 minutes. So we have an opportunity now for Q&A with our 4 panelists. If you have a question for all of the panelists, please go ahead and put it in the chat. We may not get to everyone's questions, but there will be more time in the breakouts in a few moments to ask panelists more questions, more specific questions in a more informal setting. So we could start with Appalachia is filled with natural resources and beauty, yes? So how can we use this as an opportunity to expand recreation, tourism, and hospitality in the region? That's for anyone to take.
I'll give a shot at starting a response to that good question. I can speak for my work along the Great Allegheny Passage, and just to say that the small towns of between 70 people and 19,000 people really depend on visits from those of us who live in Pittsburgh. And they work very hard for the attention of tourists and offer festivals and small art museums, great green spaces, and a real window into the beauty of mountain and river culture. These are places that have embraced their natural environment and are well worth a visit. So I'd encourage folks on the call to explore a little bit beyond their own neighborhoods, and then get the word out to friends on what's possible and what's happening throughout the region.
Thank you. Any other thoughts from our panelists? We have some good questions in the chat too. I think I'll go ahead to that. There were, I think it was Dustin as well as Jeffrey talked about skilled labor. And we have a question from Preston. Are the maintenance jobs in the state parks open to unskilled people who can learn on the job to become skilled, or do employment laws get in the way? I was also thinking about those and wondering if we could get some more specifics from Dustin or Jeffrey about what kinds of skilled labor in both of those situations that are useful and what you're looking to hire.
Sure, I can address some of that from the state park side, and to answer Preston's question. Yeah, there are, I would say, less skilled opportunities. One of our main entry level maintenance position is a semi-skilled laborer. So that's most commonly a seasonal position. You're hired and you're doing things like mowing grass and painting and cleaning restrooms. And there are some opportunities for on-the-job training, as time and the season permits. We might match those less skilled people up with our skilled maintenance repairmen on certain projects, so they would learn in that manner. But certainly taking some initiative and gaining those skills outside of the workplace definitely makes that person a better candidate and just makes them an all-around more knowledgeable person in those skilled trades. Even some of the maintenance repairmen and the higher skilled classifications, we've seen less candidates and the skill levels aren't quite the same what we were seeing, maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago. So I think that is a well-known trend. There are some trade schools out there. I work with the Newcastle School of Trades in different ways. And, I know those places exist that can teach those skills. It's just a matter of, I think, finding the right people and going out and learning and then being able to find them in the job hunt and get them into state parks. So there's a lot of ifs and whats and we're doing our best, but it's possible. It's just tough.
And are you talking about folks like masons and electricians and those types of jobs?
Yeah, that's a good question. Our state classifications that we utilize are not always that specific. So one of our skilled positions that we use is called a maintenance repairman 2, and generally they need to be skilled in at least 2 trades. I would say carpentry is a big one for us, plumbing with all the buildings and restrooms we have. But yeah, electrical knowledge is one that we see less and less of. And certainly masonry can come in handy, probably the least we use, but still utilized at times. We also have positions.
And it appears that Dustin may have dropped off.
Okay, he might be rejoining, so maybe we'll move on to another question and come back.
Perfect.
Should we do one more Q&A question before opening the breakout rooms?
Sure, maybe a quick one.
Yeah, I'll jump in. There was a question from Nora about if we're concerned with water quality as a recreational determiner, and I would say absolutely. I think anyone who has ever been out on a boat or wanted to go swimming or kayaking in Pittsburgh after a particularly stormy day like today knows that the water quality really suffers, and that's because Pittsburgh is one of the older cities, like a number of East Coast cities, that have combined sanitary and storm sewers. And we have a number of combined sewer overflows that discharge raw, untreated sewage into our rivers when we get a certain amount of rainwater going into our storm sewer. So it is a major regional problem. It is a major problem that Alcosan is working to address through a regional infrastructure plan and a federal consent decree. And it's something that we hope will be improved by a mix of gray and green infrastructure improvements. And whenever we see these riverfront projects and developments come online, we always hope that there are opportunities to increase green infrastructure solutions in those projects, because the riverfronts really serve as the kind of last barrier for stormwater flowing into the river. So if there are ways to use things like bioswales and permeable paving and whatnot to help clean and cleanse the stormwater, that's ideally what we want to see happen, rather than everything just going into the storm sewer. I have a 5-year-old peeking in on me here, but yeah, great question, and our water quality definitely impacts economic opportunities as well for recreation.
As an ecologist, you're really talking my language there. And it's interesting to think about how all these dollars coming from tourism could help us leverage that to make improving water quality, stormwater systems, et cetera, even more of a priority. I think now we will, and thanks for jumping in there, Stefan, I appreciate that. So I think now we will move to breakout rooms. And Mark, do you want to guide us through that?
Well, I think we've come back from the breakout rooms, and like each group, somebody can comment on what the group talked about. So I'm with the recreation group, and I just wanted to say that there was a question from Annie that she didn't wind up in our group, but she wanted us to address in terms of hospitality of these businesses along the trail, and whether there's inclusion, and does it, leave out local people. And Brian, do you want to give your answer again for that?
Sure, yeah, it's a great question, Annie. I would say that by far, it's local residents in our trail towns who have stepped up with their own resources to build businesses that are attracting folks. It's fairly rare for wealthy outsiders to come in and launch new businesses. Once in a while that's happened, and those tax dollars get used locally. So some investment is good in an area where the population has declined, but by and large, it's local folks seeing the benefit.
And then the rest of our group was pretty much about expanding the trail and opportunities, that expanding the Gap Trail, expanding along the Pittsburgh to Blawnox, just connecting all kinds of trails. So there was a lot of people like those trails and the trail towns. So that's it for the recreation group.
Yeah, and I can jump in for the ecotourism group. So we just talked a little bit about the rise of ecotourism in the region, and then we talked a little bit. There was a suggestion about potentially rehabbing like the area in Duck Hollow and Frick Park in Pittsburgh to better suit tourists, and also some thoughts about like, you know, using the rivers for transportation and you know, like using barges for recreational purposes, and you know, trying to make Pittsburgh a more easy city to navigate to include more people. But yeah, I think there were a lot of really exciting ideas, and this has been a really fantastic program. So I'll pass it over to the last group to give their update. Yeah.
Okay, this is Preston. We'll jump in. We met with Jeffrey, and his comments, we ended up talking about, if you want to work for him, how do you do it? And basically, it's a classic, show up and be interested and talk to the boss, and you'll probably get a job. He's really interested in getting people with wide variety of backgrounds, people with PhDs in one field who really want to be furniture builders, those kind of people. And we know they're all around. These are people who have natural talent and who, for one reason or another, push themselves to get college degrees, when in reality, they really want to be furniture builders or refinishers or builders and have physical things to do. So that was the gist of our conversation. It was very nice. Too short.
Yeah. Well, and we also have plenty of places to stay if you want to come and check it out for a few weeks. So come on down to Wheeling.
Great.
Great wrap up. I don't know if that PhD comment was meant to be for me, but I felt it.
Don't worry about it. I'm a college dropout, and I made fun of this guy when he came, and I said, "What? Have you got a communications degree?" And he goes, "A PhD in it."
Yeah. Well, great. I would love to speak with each of our panelists more about all kinds of things, but we have to wrap it up. Thank you again for joining us this evening. As a reminder, check out reimaginejobs.org for more career opportunities and information about workforce development initiatives. If you are with an organization, consider becoming an exhibitor on the site by clicking Become an Exhibitor on the homepage of the site. Tonight's program is part of a series of monthly programs diving deeper into the sectors on the website. Follow @Jobs Reimagine on Twitter, @Reimagine Jobs on Instagram, and like Reimagine Jobs on Facebook to stay up to date on the upcoming programs. Our next event on July 28th will focus on green chemistry. We hope to see you there. Thanks again for joining us tonight, and we hope that this is just the beginning of the conversation.
And thank you, Bonnie. And we got a question about, is there a way to contact people who spoke tonight? And all the groups hopefully have signed up or will be signing up to be exhibitors on the website. So you just explore the website and find their place. Bonnie, you're represented through Powder Mill Nature Reserve.
Yeah, if anybody wants to get in touch with me, I'm listed on the Carnegie Museum of Natural History website, carnegiemnh.org. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.